Hey, what's happening, everybody? Thanks for tuning back in. So this video is going to be pretty much going over everything Profit Trailer. We have some cool new feeder settings that I'm going to be looking to implement in the future, and I'm going to go over them with you guys live. Big thanks to Metadone. He kind of walked me through how this is possible, and I kind of want to explain. So obviously, we're also going to talk about the RSI cross, the stochastic cross here. I've been getting a lot of questions about that, how it works, why you're seeing the false spread, false cross and stuff. But what I really want to touch on is if you're doing manual trading, right? The most common way or one of the most common ways is to look at multiple time frames, right? So you maybe start at the 1 day and you look at your indicators, you get an idea, okay, so the market seems to be trending upwards. The RSI is still pretty, in the oversold territory. It gives you kind of a trend analysis, like how is this working? Maybe you pull up other indicators as well. Then you maybe move down to the 4 hour and you do the same thing. You say, okay, well, the RSI is a little more hot on this time frame. But it still looks like the stochastic RSI cross is doing all right. We might actually have a bearish divergence come down here. We'll kind of have to wait and see. But, then you look at the price action, you look at the previous price action, get your ideas, are we making lower lows, lower highs, higher lows, etc. And then you kind of move down to the more micro, you continue down maybe to the 1 hour. And the biggest problem with Profit Trailer in the past was, we weren't updating our indicators based on certain, conditions, right? And then a couple weeks ago, we started, playing around with updating your market conditions or your indicators based on market conditions with feeder. And that's one of the most powerful things about feeder is that you get these strategies. So if we go to configuration here and we go to groupings, you get to use these market conditions groupings. And this is really powerful. You basically, what you can do is they give a good example here. All the below triggers are used based on assumptions that you make on the correlation between certain things that are happening in the market. So examples would be, the max top coin average change. We've talked about this a lot. If the top, 30 coins or whatever you're using to measure up at the top of your settings here, I think we use 30. I can't find it for the life of me right now. But anyway, normally, right here, 35. So if the top 35 currencies are moving in a negative direction, negative 5%, the collective average of them is negative 5%, then guess what? You're in a bearish trend. And we use that here. So max top coin average change, negative 2.5%. Then you're in a super bear category. Now, that's great. And in the past, we've updated our indicators in these sections. Now, the only problem is there's another one here, max top coin long-term change, which uses longer-term candles, min-based coin price change. So like if you're trading BTC pairs or ETH pairs, if BTC or ETH is pumping really hard, 3.5% or greater, then you're also in this super bear category because, hey, I want to make it difficult to buy other coins because those coins are really pumping hard and you want to take part in those profits. And also, when Bitcoin or Ethereum, pump really hard, then the altcoins tend to kind of take a beating as well. That's all great, right? But those are blanket settings. Those are settings that are not based on each individual coin, and what it's doing. It's basically using the top coins, the top 35 coins, or purely your base currency to make these changes. Still very powerful, but what I want to do now, moving forward, is get into these groupings and change the indicators based on each individual coin's price action, based on each individual coin's volume, or whatever, sort of equation we can come up with. And keep in mind, this is just an example setting. This is only one individual pair grouping. So right here, we're in the market conditions groupings. If we go down to the pair groupings, you can see that there is a ton of different things that we can use to develop different equations like this one. And so what we'll do is we'll kind of go over how this works and kind of how it affects our trading and how I'm more comfortable with using this stuff. So basically what this new settings file is doing is we have our new 1 day stochastic RSI cross indicator, and then we have our new 1 hour stochastic RSI cross indicator. or stochastic cross indicator. So basically what we're doing here is we're adding new indicators and we're giving them a label. It's interesting how this works because now, we can use these labels down here. So we have here it is. So A buy strategy, stochastic RSI cross. What that's doing is it's saying, all right, we're going to use this buying strategy. Now we can give a label here, A buy strategy label, stochastic RSI 1 day cross. So what that's going to do is go up here and look for this indicator, the new 1 day stochastic RSI cross indicator. And that is cool because all you have to do is put 1 day cross in here, and that gives it the label. It gives PTFeeder the label, and it's going to use this 1 day, time frame candles, right? Or you can do it for the 1 hour, and et cetera, et cetera. So that's what's really cool is now, cause you couldn't do this before. You can't overwrite the PT pair or the PTFeeder pair specific groupings that we're looking at here by just overriding this stuff. For whatever reason, it just doesn't work like that. It's more of a blanket setting. But what's cool is now for each individual pair, and I'll kind of run through what this pair grouping is doing, and you'll kind of get a better idea. So what this is saying is for this double cross medium risk grouping, you have pair volume. So say you're trading BTC ADA. Your pair volume needs to be less than or equal to the config trigger name 1, and that's this guy here. So if your pair volume, you're trading ADA, it's less than 3,000, and the market dot long-term coins change is greater than or equal to negative 1.75, then you're going to override that coin's buying strategies altogether. And the cool thing here is this gives you much more granular sort of settings configuration, right? Like this lets you on a coin specific basis based on what that coin is doing override that strategy for that specific coin. So I'm really excited to start using this. Obviously this is just one example. I've seen app settings files with 50 different pair groupings to cover all bases, right? Like don't just copy this one and think that, oh, great, I have one pair grouping, it's perfect. This definitely does not cover every condition, and this is definitely more advanced. But I wanted to get this out there because this is really powerful. Now Feeder and PT are going to be using a pair specific override for pretty much anything you want. So that's going to be really cool with these labels. And then what I wanted to get into next is I've been getting a lot of questions on the RSI and the RSI cross. If you look in your profit trailer monitor, you might see something like this: false cross, you might see true, you might see false spread. And basically all those is they're more or less just warnings. So if we look at this, it says false cross. What does that mean? If we go into the profit trailer wiki here, it says this buy sell strategy is true when the K and D lines have crossed and the spread is larger than the buy or sell value. And the direction of the cross is important. So that's one thing. And then the cross also must take place within the number of cross candles specified. So if we go up to our settings here, we can see we have our cross candles is 2. And then we have our indicators, stochastic RSI 1 hour cross. And then we have that's our K, and then we have our D. And what we're looking for here is you scroll into this RSI, stochastic RSI indicator, and you can see that there's two things going on here. There's the fast line, which is the K, and you have the slower moving line, which is the D. And what that is doing is once they cross over each other, so if we zoom in even more, we can see that there was a cross right there, right? The K crossed over the D in the down direction, like in the negative direction. What that is going to trigger in Profit Trailers Monitor is that's going to trigger a false cross, because obviously you don't want to buy when this thing is crossing in the downward direction. If you know anything about the stochastic RSI and how you play this, that's not what you want. You want to buy when it's crossing in the upwards direction. And so let's go back to this downward direction cross. So when it does cross, you might see the false cross. And then when it's in this kind of underneath zone where the K is underneath the D, you might see in Profit Trailer's monitor the false spread. And what that is telling you is, listen, it's the spread according to your buying strategies is negative, right? Because the K is below the D, so it's a negative spread. And we want to buy, our A buy value is 0.05 and our buy value limit is 10. So those are positive spreads. So obviously it's going to say it's a false spread because it's in the negative direction. Now in here, there's obviously quite a large spread between these two at any given moment. And this is where you want to purchase. Now, we use the stochastic RSI cross along with the stochastic RSI because we don't want to buy up here in this overbought territory. We want to buy down here when these things are crossing over each other. So right here would have been a great buying opportunity. And that's what we're looking for. So that's why we have the stochastic RSI buy value at 0.15, which is right about in here. So if anything is below this line, then that is where we want to buy. That's where our buying strategies will become true. A hint, some people are wondering, like, why can't I, make this more aggressive? And the hint is the RSI is the slowest moving out of all these three. So if you do want to get more aggressive, you can incrementally increase your RSI from, maybe 28 to 35 or something, right? But it's kind of a safety net. It definitely is there to kind of make sure that you're buying at a decent time. So just be aware and incrementally increase that to kind of help yourself in case you get into a bad situation. Same goes for the RSI. You can, or the stochastic RSI, you can increase this a little bit if you wanted to, but just be aware that they're safety nets, and that's kind of why they may seem a little too conservative. But to me, they've been buying in very decent buying opportunities, and you can see why. So right under here, you would have bought, you're taking part in a nice bit of action. That was like a 10% gain on 11% gain on sub. And you can use the stochastic RSI cross as a selling feature as well up in here, up in this area. So just keep that in mind. Last but not least, I want to get into Defender. And I've been getting a lot of questions about, isn't it just so similar to DCA and you can get really complicated with your DCA strategies and it would work the same? And, that's a common question. By no means am I, calling you out or anything. I disagree. So with DCA, you have all of your different buy triggers. These triggers, to me, the reason they're at -1, we've talked about this in the past, is simply because I want my DCA values to be enabled. Like, I want my buy triggers 1, 2, 3 through 7 to be enabled almost all of the time. And then I want to rely on my indicators to make sure that I'm buying at a decent time. I'm not using Anderson double down. I'm not using, those sort of quote unquote dumb buying strategies. Like, I am looking to, any time my buying strategy, like my triggers are true, I'm confident that my buying strategies are going to be getting me into good buys, right? So I don't really care where my DCA buy triggers are. If they get triggered at -1% and my indicators and my buying strategies become true, then by all means buy it. That's what I want. But then you have your DCA buy percentages. Mine are all at 100 because I am playing with maybe a little bit more base currency, whatever the case may be. But there's something you have to remember is what Defender is doing is it's breaking up your bag. And if we go into the settings, whatever you set your target percentage to, you can be confident that that is what your bag value is going to be brought to. So with DCAs, in order to get the same result as with Defender and get out of your bags quick, you would need to increase your buy percentages every level. So you need to increase this to like 200, then 300, then 400. You would need a ton of capital to get out of certain bags. And, to me, it's so different. They're different strategies. Neither one is right, but I prefer to use Defender strategy because I can get my bags to these negative close to 0, and they're just popping off when we have nice days like this. So If you have questions about that, leave it in the comments below, and maybe I'll make another video kind of explaining my thoughts on that. But for that,